This is David Stark from Watch or Pass, and today I'm here to talk to you about a new sci-fi horror film that's being released by Gravitas Ventures called Meander. Or I think in French, I'm going to butcher this, but I think it's Meandre, but I never took French, so I think, but the film in America is being released as Meander. It's coming out July 16th, 2021. Like I said, it's a horror sci-fi film. It kind of throws you for a loop because it starts off as more of like a sinister kidnapping film. You've got a woman named Lisa who is hitchhiking. She kind of appears to not have much to live for. She gets picked up by a mysterious driver who has some fairly distinct features. Most notably, he has some tattoos on his hand. And then she hears a news report about the police looking for someone with tattoos on their hand. Boom, cut. She wakes up in this strange sci-fi corridor. And you know what? This is probably a good place for me to tell you that there will be spoilers in this review. If you don't want any spoilers, please go to watcherpass.com. It's my website, and I post much more vague written reviews. They don't have spoilers. They can give you a good idea of the film and what happens and what I liked about it. But it's spoiler free, so you can go there. But spoiler, I love this film, so you should watch it. But in any event, so Lisa wakes up in this strange kind of like metallic corridor, and she has this lighted wristband on, and the only thing that she can really do is just go forward. But what happens is the wristband has a counter on it, and about every 10 minutes that counter hits 0, and then something terrible happens. There's all sorts of weird different traps that occur in this hamster maze, I guess. And so Lisa's trying to survive, progress, and also figure out where she is and what they want her to do. There's a few little things that happen that kind of lets her know that she's being watched and also cared for a little bit, but the traps are brutal. Like people die in this scenario, in this maze, and so she's kind of fighting for survival while also just trying to figure out what to do. So I'm going to get into 3 things I loved about this movie, a couple of things I didn't love, but overall I thought this film was very, very well done. And then I'm going to discuss the ending just a little bit, just kind of touch on some of my thoughts for the ending. Let me know what you think after you watch it in the comments. That'd be great. I'd love to talk more about it, because this is a really interesting film, and one that I think thrives on the mystery that it leaves you with. So the first thing I loved about this movie is the lead actress, Gaïa Weiss. She is just fantastic. I mean, this film is basically her essentially alone in these terrible situations, kind of fighting for her life. And she really has to kind of carry this entire film. Like, she is the one that is giving you the emotion, giving you the strain on her. She's reenacting the pain. She's kind of pushing this narrative forward essentially all by herself. I mean, there are traps and there's a few people that come in and out of her life, but for the most part she's by herself, and so she has to sell everything about this film essentially on her own. And she does a really, really good job. I mean, she goes through some pretty terrible things. I can't imagine how tough it was to film, because she gets almost burned. She gets soaked. She has to kind of, deal with sharp objects and tearing and all sorts of pain, emotional and physical pain throughout. And she does it just so well. And it makes you really kind of root for her the entire time. I mean, you're already rooting for her because she's the main protagonist and she's kind of putting this against her will. But her performance really has you get behind her and really has you kind of wish for her to figure out what's going on and get out of this place. So the second thing I really loved is the sci-fi aesthetic. I mean, this movie really kind of threw me for a loop. I didn't watch the trailer. I didn't read anything about it. And so when I was watching, it starts off as kind of your typical kind of hitchhiker horror film, maybe an abduction, maybe a kidnapping, abduction, maybe. But then when it switches, it turns into this kind of sci-fi survival torture movie. I mean, torture is very loose. Like, they don't actively torture her, although she has to go through these terrible traps, so she does get very hurt. But and through it all, it has this really great kind of near future space age kind of sci-fi aesthetic that doesn't do too much, but does just enough to kind of set the tone. You've got these metal corridors. You've got some clear plastic panels that move on their own. You've got these traps. You've got this kind of wetsuit that she's in, and this futuristic lit up bracelet that kind of tells her what's going on and changes colors based on things that happen. And it just has this really, really well done, simple but very effective sci-fi aesthetic. And I really loved, that part about this film is that it doesn't do too much. It doesn't try to do too much. It does just enough to kind of sell itself and sell itself well without going overboard. And that's actually what I'm going to talk about next. Is the third thing I really loved is the effects. It kind of ties in with the sci-fi and with the point I was bringing up. But the film just has very, very good practical effects and a little use of CG. But I think overall it does a very, very, it has a very smart use of it. The corridors are well done. They look metallic. They have just a little bit of lighting on the side to give them kind of a futuristic, otherworldly type of look. The blood and gore effects, there aren't a ton of them, but they are very well done. There's some creatures that she encounters that have really, really great makeup and really, really, great kind of they completely kind of disguise what they are. And that's not to say that they're like people in disguise, but they are supposed to be these kind of creatures, and they sell it very well. And so the effects do a very, very good job of conveying what the viewer needs to see without going overboard. Like the thing that I really, really don't like in some indie films is you've got this need to go more and more and to maybe have like a bigger creature or a large explosion or something that just doesn't look good. It looks clearly CG, or it looks off, or it looks like it was put in post. And this film has very, very smart effects. There is some CG, but overall it's very nuanced and it's integrated very well, and you don't really notice it. Like the whole film just feels like a very, very well done, very well put together. And all of this, the effect of all of this is that you can just let yourself go and just watch this movie. You don't see things that kind of look noticeably cheap or look noticeably out of place. Everything looks good. There is one kind of robot type thing that you see later on. Look, I think it actually might be a throwback to like a classic movie, because it looks like a prop from an old like 80s sci-fi movie. So I think it was actually by design. That looks a little cheap, but it also, I appreciate it. And it didn't look, it looked like it was practical. It didn't look like they did it all in CG. So it looked like it was just some sort of prosthetic that they made, which again, a very smart use of it. I think it was an homage to like an 80s style sci-fi film. But so overall, I think Meander is it's a really, really good film. It's a really exciting one. It's one that doesn't try to do too much and does just enough to make it so that you want to keep watching. You want to keep, you want to keep watching. You want to keep seeing what happens. And, you don't ever get kind of pushed out of the film. You kind of can live in this little world and live in these tunnels and really, hold your breath, get scared, see these terrible things happen to Lisa, the main character. Now, two things I didn't like is not the right word. I mean, these are just minor things, but also I kind of like things about them. So this is kind of a backhanded compliment, but here if I had to pick a couple things, here they are. The first thing is some of the mystery. The film doesn't really explain everything, which I think is good. I think sometimes films try to explain too much. They try to tie everything up in a bow and leave the viewers with a full picture of what happened, and that can often lead to these kind of half-ass explanations, or these explanations that maybe just don't make sense, or that either feel too convenient. And in Meander, it leaves a lot of this as a mystery. Like, I don't really know what happens at the end. I'm going to talk about it, but I don't really know what happens. And there's some aspects of the film in there that I don't know why they were there. There's some technology, there's some creatures, there's some aspects of Lisa exploring her mind and her subconscious and her guilt that they're all there to contribute to the film. I don't know why they all coalesce, and frankly I don't care. I mean, I really just like this movie, but I guess if I had to pick something, I would maybe have liked to know a little bit more. But overall, I think it was smart not to try to fully explain everything, because this film is just it lives on its own. It lives in its own world. You can get in, enjoy it, and you don't really have to dwell on anything. It leaves you with a satisfying ending, one that has some mystery, but the whole film has mystery throughout. So again, if I had to pick something, that would be it. But I also kind of liked that part of it. I guess the other thing would be the strange you know, change at the start, because Lisa's picked up by this person who we later find out is also a prisoner in this maze, although I believe he is transformed into one of the creatures. So I don't know if they were just pleased with him or whatnot, but she's picked up by him, and then all of a sudden, boom, she's in this sci-fi world, and they don't really explain. I kind of liked that loop because I was expecting something else, and then all of a sudden it was a different film. But I don't really know why he was out hunting. They didn't ever ask Lisa to go out and hunt. It just, if, it's fine. Again, this film lives in some mystery, and that mystery is fine because the movie itself is so strong. But I guess, if there was, again, something that I didn't had to pick, it would be that kind of lack of explanation at the start, or lack of kind of knowing why this film went from a sinister hitchhiker type film to a torture maze sci-fi film. But again, who cares? This film is really good. It's really fun. It's really entertaining. It does a really, really good job with what it has, and it has a fantastic performance by Gaïa Weiss. So I definitely think you should watch it. On my website, I gave it a watch, which means you should definitely watch it. You'll enjoy it. It kind of does something either unique or does something very, very well, or it was just a refreshing film to see. So now I'm going to get into some thoughts on the ending. I've already talked a little bit about aspects of the film, but this is going to be major spoilers. If you haven't seen the film or you don't want to know about the ending, stop watching, go see the film, come back. But here I'm going to talk about the ending and kind of some of my thoughts about it. I don't have any inside information. I just watched it once, and this is kind of my thinking. So if you have other thoughts, things that you noticed, comments, please drop them. I would love to hear more about this film and talk more about this film. So if you have anything that you that you noticed or that you think I got wrong, please tell me. I would love to hear it and love to talk about it. So I think there's essentially two things I think of for the ending, and the one that I think is more plausible is that there's some sort of aliens involved, and that's kind of hinted at. The first thing I liked is if that is the case, then this film kind of has a through line of abduction, because she's kind of abducted at the start in that car, and then she is abducted in the more traditional kind of sci-fi alien sense into this maze, spaceship, whatever you want to call it. So I think that would be kind of a nice little hint that about what this movie was. And then the other aspects about the film that made me think there are aliens are the sci-fi aesthetic, the metal kind of corridors look kind of like what you would expect a spaceship to look like. They had those lights that kind of go along the corridors that you see in a lot of sci-fi space films. You had this like alien kind of monitor thing. It was like an eyeball that had like a little laser, essentially. That I think that was some sort of throwback to like an 80s sci-fi film, but I'm not sure on that. You had the membrane. There's a scene where she goes into this room and there's like a membrane separating her from something on the other side that looks otherworldly. You can't tell if it's the creatures that are attacking her or if it's something else. I think it's probably something else. She seems to have a connection with them when one of them pushed its head through the membrane. So I think that those are aliens. They're testing her. They're doing something to her to make sure that she is worthy, or to make sure that she's strong enough for whatever it is their next step is. And I guess the last hint that they're probably aliens is the ending, where she ends up on this planet. It kind of looks like a rainforest type scene until it pans up and you see this like strange moon and this larger planet off in the horizon. So it looks like she's somewhere in space in some sort of other environment. And so I think altogether it makes me think that she was abducted by aliens. This whole process was a way to test her strength, her kind of cunning, her ability to deal with pressure and to survive, and also to test her will to survive, to make sure that if she was put on this planet, that she would be able to survive and live and thrive and not just kind of curl up in a ball. And I think that might be where that final test was. That at the end you had her meet up with her dead daughter in some sort of, I guess it wasn't a hologram because she was holding her, but she does say that you're not real, and the daughter tries to lead her off the path, but she knows the path because she's figured it out from the clues on where she has to go. So she kind of follows the daughter for a bit, and then she says no, like that's not I forget what she says, but it's like that's not the way, or that's not that's not for me. My path is this way. So I think that last test maybe was to make sure that she had the will to live. She was able to focus on getting out and surviving rather than staying in the spaceship and living in her own dread. She wanted to get out and survive, and I think that was maybe a last test that then kind of let her go on the planet. Now, why was her daughter on that planet as well? I don't know. Maybe they were using the technology they have to give her a companion because they thought that she earned it. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Like, again, one of the things I really liked about this film is that there's enough mystery to keep you guessing and to be able to have these kinds of discussions. But there was enough of a through line that you could come up with these. And I'm emphasizing again, I'm okay if a film doesn't necessarily tell me everything. Sometimes it's frustrating if I think that they should, but this film, it seems like they kind of thrived in this unspoken area, and it made the film stronger as a whole. So the other thought I have is, maybe not aliens, maybe it's some other intelligence or corporation that is testing people, and through this they're trying to find the people that either deserve it most or the strongest. It kind of relates to the aliens, but in this case, at the end, maybe she goes into some sort of like hologram world, like a Matrix type thing. They had some Matrix like aspects where they plugged into her stomach and gave her sustenance, or some sort of healing solve or juice. So there is some sort of like machine sustaining people aspects to it. And then in the end, you had her with her daughter in this otherworldly type place that clearly looks like another planet. So maybe it was just some sort of projection or hologram that was giving her a peaceful place to live with her daughter and kind of give her what she wants most, is just a nice life, her daughter, and just some peace and quiet. So that was my other thought. I think aliens is probably the most likely. I mean, that seems to be the one that has the most the most hints, but I could be wrong. Hey, maybe it's just a billionaire who likes to torture people. I don't know, but I think it's probably aliens, and I think but we'll probably never know, or maybe there's hints in there that I missed. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I got it wrong, if you think I got it right. If you think there's another explanation or things that I missed, please drop in the comments. And also, check out Meander. It's on digital July 9th, 2021. You can rent it, buy it, watch it a couple times. I really enjoyed it, and I think if you're into horror or sci-fi, you will enjoy it too. So if you liked this review, if you liked my thoughts, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot to make sure all my new content goes straight to you. And have a great day. Thank you.